Muy bien. Hola, this is Serge or Sergio from Costa Rica, and I'm going to be in charge of the first of a series of conferences given by Futuropa, promoting Costa Rica in Europe. So we are going to board today the birding market and the opportunities for you to sell Costa Rica as a birding destination, giving some tips on why Costa Rica is a top country for the activity, and some clues regarding the design and the organization of bird-based itineraries and programs to our country. So before I start, I just would like to know if you can hear everything I'm saying. You can put in the comments. And also, if you have any question over the presentation that is going to take around 30 to 40 minutes, we will put together all the key questions. And at the end, we will bring them up and I will try to answer all the information regarding your comments and questions about the conference. Also, if we don't reply the what you wanted to know, we will keep your email, or you can drop an email to myself or to Futuropa. So in the next 24 hours, we will be replying. Okay, so is everyone listening?
Sí.
Okay, great. Okay, in the next 30, 40 minutes, I'm going to take you through a small journey on Costa Rica as a birdwatching destination. This is a conference as part of the project of Futuropa to keep you updated and entertained regarding all the issues we are having worldwide on the coronavirus. So it's a great chance to learn and to get to know new opportunities to sell Costa Rica as a destination, and today we are boarding birdwatching. My name is Sergio or Serge Arias, and I am a birdwatching specialist. I run a few birding projects in Costa Rica and in the region, and today we will be boarding Costa Rica as a birdwatching destination. So before I go on the key selling points and how to put together Costa Rica in your company as a birdwatching and wildlife destination, we have to understand a few concepts that probably many of you already know. Basically, Costa Rica is in the middle of the Americas. We are in Central America, in between South America and North America. Many people call Costa Rica the waste of the Americas. And this is how our map looks, including our oceans. So we share borders with Panama, Colombia, Ecuador, and many other countries because we have the Cocos Islands that makes the country 9 times bigger in terms of ocean compared to our mainland. We are located in an isthmus or in a bridge in Central America that literally works as a bridge and a connection between the two big continents, North America and South America. And a bridge allows over a million of years, a lot of wildlife to discover, to explore, and to establish in new areas. So we have in Central and South America, the influence of North America of important groups of birds, including owls, partridges, swallows, moths, and thrushes. And of course, from South America to Central and North America, groups of birds that develop in the South and have been expanding to Central America and North America, including the barbets, wonderful groups as the colorful toucans, tinamos, creepers, and birds, cotingas, and mannequins. So we're getting more people in the conference, so we will let them to join us. Okay. So Costa Rica is well known as a place to enjoy nature. 27% of the land has been protected since the 70s. We have a very strong protected areas structure, including national parks, biological reserves, indigenous reserve, wildlife, refuges. You can see in the slide. Also is one of the countries of Latin America with one of the more successful program of biological corridors involving people, communities, and farm into conservation, connected, protected areas like national parks within other important areas, basically building bridges to connect wildlife. And of course, is one of the few countries that every year increase the number of hectares or acres in forest coverage. In the country, we have 21 important bird areas established by BirdLife regarding endemism, regarding unique ecosystems or migration patterns for key birds or endangered species along the migration of the Americas. And of course, a lot of special ecosystems, including wetlands, national parks, tropical rainforests, dry forest marshes, coastal areas, and more. And of course, we have a national bird road highlighting the key birding areas of the countries where people can have wonderful experiences and high quality services, including ecologists, guides, and more for the country. If we put together all those maps and all those layers for the birding opportunities regarding wildlife, ecotourism, conservation, basically we will cover like 80% of the country, layer over layer. And in Costa Rica, we have established, or we have divided the country in terms of bird biodiversity to set it easy and to understand the distribution of birds, taking into account ecosystems, geographical barriers, and the availability of sources, and of course, based on the birds people expect and want to see, including the most unique ones. So we split the country in biomas or ecozones. In orange, you see the Caribbean lowlands of the country. In lemon, the Caribbean foothills. The Caribbean lowlands includes all the Caribbean shore of the country and almost the whole border with Nicaragua and the San Juan River, the Northern Plains, the Arenal volcano area, this Sarapiqui lowlands, all the Tortuguero area, and all the Caribbean side of our country, all the way down to the border with Panama. The foothills include the Caribbean slope of our main mountains, including the foothills of the Talamanca, the Central Volcanic Range, and the Tilaran, and the Caribbean slope of the Guanacaste Mountain Range. All the highlands, or all the backbone of mountains in the country, cover the highlands, the top of our mountains, the top of our volcanoes, wonderful areas as Monteverde, Rincón de la Vieja, the Poás Barba volcano, even the city and the Central Valley, and of course, the mountains of Talamanca and the Quetzals National Park. And the Pacific is divided into two eco zones, the Northern Pacific Lowlands, which cover most of the province of Guanacaste and part of the province of Punta Arenas, literally from the north of the Tárcoles River all the way to Nicaragua, the Pacific shore of the north of the country, and the Nicoya Peninsula. And the Central and Southern Pacific as a single region, including the Osa Peninsula, one of the wildest places on Earth, all the way down to the Golfo Dulce and the southern border with Panama. In the country, we have 921, already 922 species of birds, which means around 10% of the world bird life, including two migratory species, 250 migratory species, mostly from North America during the fall and in the spring. And in Central America, we share more than 100 regional endemics. In the borders or in the political structure we know of Costa Rica today, we have 7, understanding that we split the country into ecozones. It's easy for everyone, for the customers, for the local tour companies, and of course for the potential customers to understand where can they go birding in Costa Rica. And the first clue is that any successful birding tour is going to cover all these ecozones, or even just 3 or 4 of them. We have to keep in mind that we are a very small country. To give perspective, from Europe, we are like the size of Wales in the UK, or the Netherlands in the rest of Europe, or West Virginia in the US if we have people from North America joining us today. Okay, so if we put together all that information and get this map, this is one of the few maps. We produce this map to be given in travel shows and to people all over the country and abroad, but there are many other great maps regarding the birding areas of Costa Rica, so we can easily understand all the bird life we have. Sorry, 922 species. We have more birds than the US and Canada together in terms of figures, and of course we are way smaller than those countries. In the Caribbean, where I was mentioning, that covers all the northern plains, along the border of Nicaragua and the San Juan River and all the Caribbean shore, including key areas as Tortuguero. We have a wonderful distribution of more than 600 species of birds, including the famous keel-billed toucan or Fruit Loops toucan with the wonderful rainbow bill. This toucan is widespread, but it's super iconic for the Caribbean slope of the country. And also we have the Burneck umbrella bird. Those are key birds, or always target birds, that the most avid or the beginning bird watchers expect to see in the country when they come. And of course, this beautiful tiny snow-capped hummingbird that is possible to find along the slope of the Caribbean, in Turrialba, in the Bravo Carrillo National Park, and even in the Caribbean slope of Monteverde. Of course, the Caribbean lowlands is one of the areas, or is the ecozones with the wider number of birds, including the beautiful gray-green macaw, crimson colored tanagers, and this is one of the few endemics we have in the country. This very small hummingbird is called the coppery-headed emerald, and is told to be a hummingbird that only happens in the Caribbean slope of Costa Rica, and it's unique for the country in the world. Everyone wants to get to see one of these little creatures. If we move to the highlands, the number of birds is smaller, is within 200 to 250, but the higher we go in ecosystems and in terms of biodiversity, the less species we have, but more rare, unique, special, and endemic is one of the areas, or is the area of Costa Rica where we have more unique species. We share many of them in with the western side of Panama, since we share the Talamanca Mountains, and we have La Amistad, or the Friendship National Park, which is a binational park, keeping some of the tallest mountains of southern Central America, and is the place where we get people to see the resplendent quetzal, told to be one of the most beautiful, or the most beautiful bird in Latin America, or even the world. This is a wonderful male. The female right here. They feed mostly on wild species of avocado. Look at the size of that fruit. They swallow the fruit and then they regurgitate or bring back the seed. Highland birds as the sooty thrush, that reminds the blackbirds in Europe, and it's a cousin. And of course, an altitudinal migrant, which is the three-wattled bellbird, one of the cotingas of Costa Rica that everyone get mad and want to see. Look at that mustache. Hummingbirds are widespread in the highlands of the country, like this purple-throated mountain gem, barbets related to toucans, silky flycatchers, and of course there is an specialized in the cloud forest species of toucanet, the northern emerald toucanet. Those are just some few key species people want to see in each area. If we move to the central and southern Pacific, Fire Vilarasari is the star there. It's one of the most beautiful toucans we have out of the 6 species we have in the country. Manakins, we were talking a little bit before that they widespread from South America to Central America. And this orange colored manakin is one of the most marvelous creatures. And if we move way southern in this region, we have the black-cheeked antanager, an endemic bird that only happens in the Osa Peninsula and part of the Golfo Dulce in the southern of Costa Rica. And it's one of the true endemics of the country, or the ones that only happen purely in the limits, in the modern limits of the country. If we move to the northern lowlands, is the place where we can get close to the biggest bird of the country, the jabiru, which is one of the biggest storks in Latin America. We have jays that they will join your party for breakfast in your lodge, turquoise-browed motmots, and of course, all the way in the Pacific, but especially in the northern, in the Palo Verde area or in the Nicoya Gulf, we find one of the biggest population of the mangrove hummingbird, which is another true endemic to Costa Rica. In the nootropics, mostly Latin America or from the south of Florida and Texas, all the way down to Argentina, we find more than 3,000 species of birds. That means like 30% of the birds of the world. In the world, we have around 10,000 species of birds. And BirdLife identified more than 200 endemic bird areas worldwide based on the ecosystems and the rare and unique birds that need some sort of protection. And 35% of those areas are found in the New World, in Latin America mostly. In Central America, we have around 1,500 species of birds and 12 of the endemic bird areas, and more than 100 regional endemics that Costa Rica shared within Panama, Nicaragua, Honduras, Salvador, Guatemala, and Belize. So in the country, we have 922 species at the moment. Taxonomy is always changing, so we add or we take out a species every year due to new science and new studies, but we can always speak over 900 species of birds for Costa Rica. Here is an illustration on the endemic bird areas and how they influence Costa Rica. So the South Central America Pacific Slope that covers the whole Pacific side of the country, the Costa Rican Panama Highlands, which is mostly the Talamanca Mountain range, and the Central American Caribbean slope covering all the Caribbean lowlands and slope of the country, and of course the Caribbean side of the other Central American countries in the north of Nicaragua, all the Caribbean lowlands of Honduras and part of Guatemala, and of course Belize. In Costa Rica, well, as I was mentioning, we have 922 species of birds. Colombia is the country with the highest number of bird species, already close to 2,000 bird species in the world, and is doing a great work on marketing and promotion and training local people. But Colombia is more than 1 million square kilometers. So Costa Rica is just 51,000 square kilometers. And if we think about density per 1,000 kilometers, in Costa Rica, we have more than 17 species. And to give perspective, in Colombia, just 1.5, or in Peru, 1.5, in Ecuador, 5, in Panama, 12. Panama is a little bit smaller than Costa Rica. So in terms of density, we can tell that Costa Rica is one of the countries, or could be the country with the highest density of birds per 10,000 kilometers. And why that is important regarding travel and selling destinations? Time. In a smaller area, we can cover more species, so we can save time traveling. In other destinations that are wonderful as well, like in South American countries, Australia, or even in the US, you have to take flights or long distance trains, or spend a whole day driving or flying to get from the Amazon to the desert, or to get from the shore to the cloud forest. And in Costa Rica, within 5 hours, you can hit the Pacific to the Caribbean, or we can have breakfast overlooking the sunrise in the Caribbean shore of Costa Rica, watching for snowy cotingas. Then we drive all the way up sorry, to the highlands, and we can have a wonderful lunch, and of course watch for quetzals. And in the evening we can have a cocktail overlooking the Pacific Ocean and the sunset in the Pacific next to Fire Villa Razares. In a single day you can hit the Caribbean shore, the highlands, and the Pacific shore. Every year, the Cornell Lab of Ornithology promote an event called the Global Big Day. Is inviting birders from all over the world to count birds in a period of 24 hours. Is usually in May, regarding the migration from the south to the north, or what we call in Latin America the spring migration. All the birds are back in their breeding areas, especially in the US. This event was created in the US, but has been already promoted worldwide. So we can see perspective. Last year in May 4, we had the Global Big Day of 2019. And if we say in terms of species, of course, Colombia is at the top. Costa Rica is number 12 with 684, but 75% of the birds of the country were recorded in a period of 24 hours by more than 500 birders and tourists birding all over the ecozones along the country. So as we were talking, in short times, we can cover very small areas and switch ecosystem to ecosystem. This year in May 9, we have the Global Big Day for this year. And of course, it's going to be from the garden of everyone, since we have restrictions regarding a gathering of people and access to public areas for reduce the chances to get the virus. So, okay, birdwatching is a hobby and an obsession. So, well, if you get into birding, you will never go out. It's very, very contagious. It's an activity that brings people into nature, that give you even a little bit of workout because you walk a lot. And it's a hobby that is practiced by millions of people all over the US and Europe. And of course, there is a market. A million of people travel every year abroad from different countries and key markets to areas as Latin America, African, and Asian countries to get to see the colorful birds of every area. In the US, there are more than 60 million of Americans doing bird watching, including the backyard bird watchers, people feeding birds in their gardens or just enjoying the birds that come to their garden. That doesn't mean they travel. 40% of those people travel within their country or abroad. And every year, around 5 million of Americans travel out of the US with bird watching purposes, which is a lot. Central and South America are key destinations, and around 30% travel within 10 to 25 days of the year abroad for birding purposes, 1 or 2 or 3 journeys. And in Costa Rica, the American birders usually come from 7 to 12 days. Since it's so close and we have so many bird connections, many people repeat over the year 2 times or every 1 or every 2 years coming to the country. In the US, most of the birders in general are female over 45 years, and is the second fastest growing outdoor hobby in the United States of America, behind gardening, which is the main hobby. Birding, it's an industry of more than $41 billion just in America. And the projection is establishing that by 2050, we will have 127 million of bird watchers in the US, according to the New York Times. At the moment, we have 60. That means like in the next 30 years, it's going to be twice the amount of birders we have at the moment. It's a very trendy and it's a very popular outdoor hobby in North America. In Europe, there are told to be around 9 to 12 million of bird watchers. Great Britain is the main market for the world and for target areas as Central and South America and sorry, African countries. And the estimation by European organizations and governments is that there are around 6 to 7 million of birders in Great Britain, especially in England. Germany, it's also an important market with around 2% of the population. And of course, the Netherlands, even being a very small country, people from the Netherlands have a great and a huge travel culture. So many of them travel abroad to photograph and to see the colorful birds of the world. Then Switzerland and Belgium, but the Great Britain, Germany, and the Netherlands are the key markets in Europe. British people created bird watching. They exported it to the world. So some of the most avid and the more hardcore potential customers come from from there. And how do we understand bird watchers? So we split them into 3 categories. The hardcore ones, which is estimated to be 50%, I mean, around 30% of the market, are people traveling with the only purpose of bird watching. This is the kind of birder who is going to go to a country and usually is going to arrange everything direct. He's going to book his hotel, is going to contact direct the guides, is going to check eBird and other apps to see where the birds are happening and who is making the reports to get in touch. It's a very independent traveler and it's a target birder. Softcore are the main customer of groups or companies running birding tours. And the softcore bird watchers are those travelers that they want to see nature, but especially birds. And more than 40% of the holiday is with the goal to see birds, but they can combine volcanoes, beautiful beaches, wildlife in general, to see the monkeys, to see a sloth, and of course, to see a huge number of birds. Those are the customers that everyone wants. They represent around 50% of the world market. And there are the occasional birders. Usually people starting into birding. I travel with my family on holiday to any destination. In the morning, I arrange a local guide in the hotel, or I request to my agent, I want to do birding in the morning. And in the afternoon, I go with my kids zip lining. We go to a chocolate tour. We climb a volcano. I go with my wife to see different cultural experiences. So I take advantage of the family trips or even the business trips to do some birding, but birding is not the main purpose of my trip if I am an occasional bird watcher. So taking into account all these facts and data, can be Costa Rica a world birding destination? This slide is a research made by Peru, from Peru, and people pick the destinations for birding based on the quality of the bird fauna. Around 80% are looking for unique and rare species. Then the security of the country is way important. I can see the more of the birds in a cheaper way or in a smaller cost that give advantage to the country regarding what we were mentioning before about distance. To be an unexplored destination. Even Costa Rica has been a popular wildlife destination for the last 20 or 30 years. We are still a hot destination for the Americans. And of course, in the last few years, we've been adding a lot of connections from European countries. So we are a very sexy destination in Europe at the moment. It's trendy, it's new, it's fresh. Europeans have already been birding in Africa and Asia before they come to Latin America. The existence of specialized companies and certifications, it's so important. So basically we got all the lotto all the lotto numbers for a country as Costa Rica. In terms of the world, Europe is the main birding area in the world, and according to their research, Latin America. And in the last couple of years, birders in an interview said that they prioritize in their target or in the wish list of countries to go birding, nations as Brazil, Costa Rica, Australia, the United States, New Zealand, and India. Costa Rica is told to be the top 5, the 5th country most important for the market in the world. This research was made a few years ago. We may be maybe number 6 or so, or sharing with Colombia, and Peru is told to be the number one in the world. How is birding in Costa Rica at the moment regarding the figures? This chart has information from our tourist board regarding the interview or the survey they apply to the tourists before they leave the country. And here we see birdwatching. Around 50% of the people surveyed replied that they did at least one birding activity during their holiday in Costa Rica. But if we see in Europe, it's twice. Is around 30% of the people that did a birding activity, and for the US is around 15%. And if we see, bird watching is over other activities for the country, for example, wellness, which is very popular and trendy, whale watching, honeymooning, and business and conventions tourism. Many of these activities, such as snorkeling, diving, especially whale watching and dolphin watching, have seasons for the country, but bird watching can be done anytime. That's another clue. Anytime can be done in Costa Rica. And if we use different criteria to compare, for example, seasons, some of those activities have seasons. Birding can happen at any time. I particularly prefer the fall, but any time of the year you can do birding. Locations, anywhere. From the balcony of my city hotel to the shore to a cloud forest lodge, I can do a little bit of birding. In the central park of the city, I can do birding. Habitats, we have more than 12 wonderful ecosystems for birding with different species. Endemism is one of the top endemic areas of Latin America, as we saw before. Congregations, we can do birding all over the year, but we have a special congregations. We have the second biggest raptor migration in the world during the fall in the Caribbean lowlands, especially South Caribbean in the Kekoli-Hogwatch Center near Puerto Viejo. And we have the biggest migration of broadwing hawks in the world. Easy access. For going to see whales, I have to take a boat. But birding, even if I'm in a wheelchair, I can do anywhere. I can be just in a balcony, I can go on a path, I can go at the side of the road, at a wonderful botanical garden, or at the world access boardwalk, or a wheelchair access trails that many national parks and private reserves have in the country. Is available for all ages. I can go birding with a child or an elder person. And the plasticity, I cannot put a whale in a tank and bring it to the city or bring it to Monteverde or to the highlands of Talamanca. But I can fix the garden of my hotel with the key species of plants and trees and bring the birds to my property so people can enjoy them. Your product and destination must be both bird and birder friendly, safety, accessible, and guides with a high knowledge. And of course, you have to involve sustainable practices in your activity. That is, in summary, what a birding destination regarding a country, a region, and even an eco-lodge has to offer to a birdwatcher. Birding is part of nature-based tourism. We have to provide the information in detail. We have to make emphasis in the key species, in the rare, or in the unique, as the quetzal, for example, and where and when can they see them. We have patterns of migration, even locally. I was mentioning the past slides, the tree-wattled bellbird, that usually you find it in Monteverde, but June, July, August. But if you come to Costa Rica in December, January, February, and March, you will find them along the shore or in certain areas of the lowlands. So we have to be clear and we have to know the behavior of the birds. If a destination is not offering birding all the year round, you can focus or feature the migrations. And the description on what we do has to match with the reality. If I am promoting the lowlands of Costa Rica, I cannot have a quetzal featuring the lowlands. I can have a toucan, or I can have certain species of hummingbirds that are found there as the endemic copper-headed emerald. And if I am talking on the highlands, I cannot have shorebirds, for example. Basic knowledge. In Futuropa, we have developed some material, including, we're talking about material. It's so important if you go to travel shows, if you want to explain to your potential customers what they could see, when and how, and with who, so that you have clear, specific information about what you are trying to sell to your potential customer. Maps, health and safety, especially now more than ever after all this happened, or we find a vaccination, or the governments start going more flexible on the conditions at the moment, so the airports are open and we can start having tourism again. Security is always so important to feature and highlight in birding, especially that birding is changing at the moment a lot, but most of the customers still are people over 60, 70, and 80. So health and security conditions, we have to be so specific, even in the timing, in insurances, and even in how difficult it's a trail for walking, or regarding insurances for the trails and for the lodges where we are staying. European travel is very, very strict regarding checklists for security, because an accident or an emergency can happen at any time, and it's going to be way more important for the upcoming months and years. The stability in terms of the political conditions of the country is so important. There are countries where people cannot really go. Well-traveled people always check the foreign affairs offices of their countries in the region or in our country. So it is very important as a destination to keep the security and the quality in terms of the political stability, for not to affect the destination. People will ask about how is the political situation of the country, and they will know because they are connected as well. Guides is super important. Many times we work or we prepare material, print material, and we pay a lot of money producing a booklet like this. And we have to make sure it's double checked by a local guide regarding the pictures, regarding the distribution of birds. We have the source and the knowledge of them. So let's take advantage of them. Accessibility and infrastructure, it is so important. People want to experience birding in a different way, in different ways, from the more basic, which is just a garden or walking in a trail, to climbing a tower, to taking a boardwalk, taking a boat. So experience birding in all the different ways, even taking them in a tractor, in a lowland, or through a lake to see the birds. So let's get creative in terms of infrastructure and facilities, and of course, equipment. It is important to always use bird-friendly accommodations. We always highlight as a country when people want to bring or sell bird-based itineraries, pick a lodge where you can do birding at your doorstep. People can be birding from the balcony, and lodges located in key areas, so we can enjoy the lodge, the reserve of the lodge, and of course, all the local reserves and parks and specialized areas for birding in an area. And of course, we have to be bird and birder friendly. Many lodges with wonderful landscape around, they have huge glass windows where sometimes we get collisions and some birds die. And many of them are working already to reduce collisions, like the Observatory Lodge in the North Plains, adding these strings to reduce collisions of birds. Sustainability. This country is well recognized worldwide for programs such as the certification for sustainable tourism. There are also projects that they create networks at the Birding Hotspots Road, protecting 119,000 acres of bird ecosystems. We have to tell people what we do on conservation, and especially birders, that most of them are linked to conservation NGOs or initiatives in their countries. They want to know that they are not only supporting ecotourism, but also the lodges and the companies and the organizations they are working with in the destination are also putting part of the money into conservation. People come here to see the birds. They want to see as many birds as they can in a short period of time, but let's run the extra mile. Let's give interactions. In the Caribbean lowlands, we go to the garden of a local guide and artist called Cope, the white-tipped sicklebill, which is one of the most rare hummingbirds in the country, is usually found in his garden. But people will always remember the hummingbird, of course, but the experience of meeting such a character as Cope is wonderful. When we do the hog watch in the fall, we take groups to do the raptor watch and the raptor migration, we stay in an indigenous village. We share with a family. They prepare special indigenous foods for us. We are there for the hogs, but we are giving the money to these families and to these people. And people will always remember the hogs, but they will always remind the wonderful meals and the wonderful experience with the indigenous native family. So let's try to put the culture as well. If we have to eat in all of the tours 3 times a day, let's go to local places. Let's try that alien and different fruit or vegetable, that is special stew. People want to have the extra value or the add value of on the tour. So we already spoke about markets and destination, but this is recent information and around the world, new emerging birding destinations. Like this is more focus on for Europeans. South Africa, Morocco, Brazil, Costa Rica, locally, Ecuador, Sri Lanka, and Kazakhstan are becoming new trendy birding destinations regarding the traditional ones that are mostly African countries. Trends, modern trends. Millennials are discovering birdwatching. Technology, mobile apps are taking people into birdwatching and has been featured in the top magazines and in the top blogs. So there is even a culture of hipster birdwatchers in the US and Europe. So young people are given a chance to this activity because it's becoming cool. It's a cool hobby, going on nature. I can check them in my phone. It's like Pokemon Go, but with real creatures. Technology is bringing a lot of young people into birdwatching, and it's in somehow the renaissance or the change of generation, because they are becoming the future birders or replacing the ones that cannot travel at all anymore. Birdwatching is seen as a form of wellness. Spending time in nature is proved by science and doctors that give you relaxation, and it's also a great exercise of patience. If you are anxious and if you have to go, you have to wait. You have to be very, very patient to see certain species of birds, and you walk a lot. In a regular, easy birding tour in Costa Rica, we walk 5 to 10 miles a day, and we don't even know. So we are working out a day while we are enjoying the cool birds. Photography has become a trend. I've been working in birding for strongly the last 7 years, but in tourism for more than 15 years. And 7 years ago, I remember taking people birding in Costa Rica, and groups of 6 to 8 people. Birding groups are usually small to take more chances to give everyone the experience to see everything. And 7 years ago, people came in a little group, and 2 or 3 people had a small camera. Now, 8 out of 10 have a huge, massive camera, because they just not want to see. They also want to take a photo for them, or to show their friends in social media that they saw the quetzal, that they saw the toucan, that they saw the very rare mannequin. So we have to involve photography in our marketing, and why not in our blogs, featuring species, featuring certain behavior, small videos in Facebook and Instagram. Online review, more than ever, it's so important. Try to get feedback and stories from your customers. It's not just telling, let's go to Costa Rica, let's share the experience of our past customers, and then invite people to join our next tour. That is an experience. People are sharing what they had, and I want to do what they did as well, or I want to see more than the last customers. Your profiles, the use of hashtags as Birdwatching Republic, Costa Rica Birding. In Futuropa, we have been working on farm tours, bringing magazines and specialists, and trying to encourage people and to increase the presence of the destination in social media, where more and more people every day are finding or researching about their potential next eco-tour or birding destination. Blogging, it's so important. Many companies, after every tour, they write a story regarding what they saw, even a whole checklist of the birds they saw during the last trip. The way you promote with video, with photography, it's so important in social media. People are hungry, especially now at this time that we are in our houses, for new content, for stories, for true adventures and experiences. So now everyone is holding a phone, a tablet, or before the screen of a computer. So it's a great opportunity to get creative in terms of social media for birding or ecotours in general. Mobile sorry, and technology apps are in the rise. There are field guides. Now I can have the book in my mobile with the calls, with all the features and the descriptions of the birds I want to spot. And eBird is in the rise. Started in the US, but now is worldwide. As a company or as a guide or as a leader, you can keep a track of all the countries you have been to and all the birds you have seen. People trying to see a quetzal, they can check on eBird, which is free, see the last records and see my name as one of the last records and contact me. And even you can have your company and your contact information over there. There are too many apps. Even if you are not avid bird watcher, there are apps that let you submit a photo. You follow the check boxes, and with an accurate of 90% will tell you which species you are trying to find. Basic tips. Make clear what you are trying to sell. People want to have the experience. People want to see as more birds in the less time. In Costa Rica, what we sell and what we promote as organizations is another key or clue. People can get to see within 300 and 500 species of birds in 10 to 14 nights. Not many countries can do that. You can see a lot of birds in a short period of time and get to experience all the ecosystems, all the ecozones with the add value of the culture and the food. Pick lodges that give you access. Don't put your people in a lodge that you have to drive an hour. Usually the birding day starts at 5 a.m. and finish at 10 p.m. because we go looking for owls at night in every ecosystem. So if you have a lodge where everything is closed, that would make easy and you will record more species for your customers. A good guide, pick the best local guide and the best birding guide of the country. If you have a tour leader, work with local guides. Also, you support the economy. Make sure you have checklists updated for the country and for the region, and feature the species that are endemic, rare, or unique, and the migratory ones as well. The quality of your company or the tour we are trying to sell is going to create trust in our company based on the technique and the true information and the ecosystems we provide. We have to be honest and we have to know what we are trying to sell. If Mr. John is trying to come to Costa Rica to see birds in December, and if he wants to see a bellbird, we have to take him to the areas where in that time of the year we can see bellbirds. If we provide a book, binoculars, a telescope, any equipment, raincoat, anything to our customers has to be in perfect conditions. We cannot give them dirty binoculars, dirty gear, dirty equipment. Everything has to be tidy and clean. People will expect, we are watching for wildlife, but people will expect the chance to see the bird. What are the chances to see a quetzal? 90%, 70%, 80%. We have to be honest. We can have 95% of chances, but in our tour we can be in the 5%. Birders understand that, but they want to know. Pick the right locations and hotspots, the quality and the quantity, mix the ecosystems, mix the ecozones, promote good practices, support certified companies, communities, and that will give add value. People will be supporting conservation while they enjoy the birds and social development. And more than ever, we have to let that to know. We have to humanize the experience, because after all of this, literally travel is going to save the economy of the world, and especially in countries like Costa Rica, where our economy depends on ecotourism and of course conservation and the social development of people. And now 5 more minutes. Here are some ideas of itineraries on how to combine all the ecozones and ecosystems. These are like 1 week to 10 days ideas. If you run tours for 2 weeks, you can put 2 of them together. Our main airport is in the Central Valley, so you can land in the Central Valley, hit the Turrialba area for the snow cap, for the tawny-chested flycatcher and all other colorful species of birds and wildlife. Then go to the South Caribbean if it's season, do the raptor migration, and all year round look for the great green macaws and the seabirds. Then visit Tortuguero. In season, birding can be combined with turtle watching, and then go to the Sarapiquí Lowlands. You will have a range of 600 species of birds, and probably you will get 300 to 400 in a week or more with the customers. And then that can be combined with another week in the northern lowlands of the Caribbean, of the Pacific, the Arenal volcano area, the wetlands of Caño Negro in the North Plains, close to the border with Nicaragua, the highlands of Monteverde for quetzals, bellbirds, hummingbirds, and more, the Nicoya Gulf for shorebirds, and dry forest specials, and then back to the city. We will share this presentation if you drop us your emails from the office at Futuropa. We can share a link or a PDF. And then this one combine all the highlands of the Talamanca Mountains with the Pacific lowlands, the North Pacific, the Central and the South Pacific, to experience the dry forest, the tropical humid forest, the shore ecosystems in the Central Pacific, and the Carrara National Park, one of the birding meccas of the country. And then we visit the Osa Peninsula for endemics, and then up in the highlands for quetzals and hummingbirds, and back to the city. This is more a little bit of all the shores, the highlands, and the Pacific and the Caribbean as well together, starting in San Jose, Tortuguero, Sarapiquia, Northern Plains, and then the Central Pacific, covering the foothills of the Caribbean lowlands, the tropical rainforest, and the shore ecosystems of the Caribbean side, the Sarapiquia River, the Arenal volcano, and the local ecosystems, and then the Central Pacific of Costa Rica and the Carrara National Park. So I think we still have some spare minutes. If you have some questions or comments, we can reply or answer and get your input as well. Do you have any questions? Okay. Susana says, hey, Sergio, good morning. Do you think that international birders demand hotels or local rural tourism by small B&Bs? Of course, birders usually combine. They can be in the more fancy hotel or in the most rural area, or even sleeping in a tent. But there is more interest now in getting the birds in the local experience. When we take people to rural areas to see the special birds, as the experience I was mentioning before in the Caribbean side with Cope, the artist, we get there to see the hummingbirds and the owls in the area, but people will always remember the experience. When we go to native people or we share with local groups, as Susana was mentioning, like when we go to Los Cusingos Resort in the El General Valley in South Pacific to get to see the potu, the manakins, and the arasaris, we have lunch with a group of local ladies. People try local food, new flavors, new spices. So they get crazy and super happy about the birds, but they will always recommend and feel so happy. So we have to find a good balance of all the experiences. The more experiences, the more emotions we provide in our tour is going to give, or is going to have the people more satisfied. And people are asking for the presentation. Yeah, we will provide the presentation in a link to get it, so you can read all the information, or you can even get more questions. I'm not sure if anyone else have more comments. Also, I would like to invite you to visit. My connection is not the best at the moment, but to visit the Futuropa site, travelcostarica.cr. There is loads of information about birding and about all the other activities people can enjoy in Costa Rica. It's travelcostarica.cr. Everyone is asking for the slideshow, so we will make sure it's provided, and we are going to pick your emails from the conference. So this is the website of Futuropa. Here you can pick all the experiences from wonderful nature, rural community tourism, sun and beach, meetings, health, and how you can combine. And here in the migration, you can pick birds, and you are going to get access to all the information from the printed booklet that we will also share. But all the information is provided in the website. It's a very well developed site where you can spend hours and use a lot of the resources that we have there to help you to sell properly the country in the different markets and niches that your customers or your company is specialized in. So I would like to thank you for the time, and I would like to apologize for the technical problems, and I hope you enjoy the conference, and follow Futuropa on social media, because there is more coming for the next weeks. Wonderful people, wonderful specialists speaking about different topics and how to be prepared after all this happened to keep tourism alive. So remember, so stay safe, wash your hands, stay home. I know it's hard, but if we keep working, if we keep positive, if we keep the connection with our customers and our potential customers, we keep them interested. After all of this, they will be happy and ready to come again to Costa Rica with all of you and all of us. Pura vida. Thank you. Gracias.